Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode from QTPtutorial.net. I'm so thankful to have you guys here today, and I appreciate you all tuning in to take a little bit of time out of your day to become a QTP expert. And I'm so thankful for that, and that's why I'm here for you guys, so that I can help you become an automation engineer. And I want to spread my knowledge. I want to leave nothing behind. I'm here for you guys. Let's pick up where we left off. Today we are in session number 3 of the pitfalls of recording and playback. We have had a very extensive journey of 3 videos, and we have arrived at this point where I hope to close everything out and show you guys and finally summarize to you why record and playback is not a good idea, and it's something that you should not exercise in your automation environment. Let me just remind you that if you're tuning into this video right now, we do have sessions 1 and 2 that I would recommend you watch before this, and then you'll be caught up and you can keep up with us here. And of course, these videos are on YouTube for your video viewing pleasure at any time. So let me do a quick recap of what has happened so far, and we can get right into it. So I started off all the lessons where I wanted to get into all of these topics right here, but I realized that I have so much to say about not using record and playback that I've decided to make it a special session, a special video for you guys of QTP and identifying objects like an expert, where you can learn this there. And these 3 videos, we're just going to focus on this. I never want to leave anything behind, and I want to get into real depths and to real understanding for you guys. So I do record this on the run, and if I have to make extra videos, I don't mind at all. It's all for your benefit, right? So let's continue where we left off. We were discussing problems with record and playback, and I actually realized as I was going through this that I left one key problem behind, and it's that record and playback is not reusable. It means that when you record a script, you record it for one-time use, and that's it. If your script gets ran multiple times because they need to run that scenario multiple times, that's awesome and you lucked out. But most of the time, your scenario may only need to be ran one time, and then that's it. You've wasted a script, you've wasted objects, and you've wasted everybody's time, because technically it takes much longer to record than it does to run the scenario manually. So, what is the answer? What is the solution to avoiding all the problems with record and playback? And why should we not do this? Why should we avoid record and playback? Well, the solution is modularization. Let me change my drawing tool here. Modularization is the idea where you create small repeatable units that you can use over and over. These units, I've introduced you to something like a login. It would be where you just enter a username, a password, and you can click login. You can apply this to either the module level or the project level, or you can go above that and apply it to globally all of automation, period. What are some other kind of modularization examples? Well, you can have something like a close browser unit. Since pretty much you always need to close a browser, in fact, let's call it close browser and log out. Since pretty much you always need to close a browser and log out of every application, you can utilize this for all of your needs. One-time effort for endless use. Another modularization example is you can actually do it with an object repository. Yes, modularizing the OR. And I will show you guys how to do that. Because right now, from all of the test cases that we created, all we did was write a whole bunch of code that we're not going to be able to reuse again. And I'll show you why. So let's get back here to the script. And I've written this function for you guys here. And I realized that I actually want to add a few more elements to it just to make it a more dynamic and global function. Some of you may not have known, but if you pass an empty string to a browser process, to a process by name method, this one right here, what's going to happen is it's going to restart your machine. And none of us want that, right? So I'm going to include an if clause here. If the browser process is not empty, then we're going to execute these two, all right? Otherwise, we're going to print that the browser process is empty, okay? So now this is a full function. Let me go ahead and store it into a function library. And you guys will get to see why modularization is such a good concept. So to create a function library, we go to File, New, Function Library, and I am going to go ahead and cut this and paste it in here. Okay, let me close this. And now I am going to save. Well, really, what I'm going to do is put some comments here, but I'm not going to waste your time with these comments because it's not part of the lesson. But it's very good to comment a function. And when you guys look at the video notes on qtptutorial.net, you'll be able to see how I document my functions. Let's go ahead and save. We can go to File, Save As. Here, in one of my videos, I created this folder structure. You guys can check out that video. It will help you become amazingly efficient at folder structures. And we can go in here under Common, Function Libraries, and I am going to call it Main. Okay, this is main function library because this function can be used anywhere for any script, no matter what. One-time effort, guys. How awesome is that, huh? Okay, so now that we have this function saved, give it a second. There we go. I need to attach this function to my script. And how we do that is we see this resources pane here. If you guys are missing the resources pane, you can easily just go to View and Resources pane, which is down here. Very simple. And I'm going to right-click. This is the fastest way to do this. Remember, here, guys, I teach you the fastest and most efficient ways to do it. There are many other ways to do this, but I do my best to share my wisdom. And we're going to do that. And now you're going to see it's going to appear right here after a second. I got this right here. I'm going to hit yes. And now we got the main QFL attached to our script. And what that means that now they're coupled together. If I need to call any function from main, all I have to do is just put the function name here. So for example, let me make this a little bit wider and look at library functions. Look, I drag this over and now it tells me what to pass to my function. And imagine if I had way more functions in there, it would be that easy to use them. And the cool thing, guys, this is where modularization is awesome, in that I only have to maintain the function in here. if something changes, if I wanted to, rather than print this message, I can say browser process. I can say that browser process received an empty string. Now, this will affect every single place where this function library is attached. Let me save and let me show you guys this. Let me comment this. Just copy this first. And then comment this up here. Okay? Make sure nothing else is uncommented. And I'm going to run. Give it a second. See, you see the green down here? It says running. And it opened up the browser for me right here, google.com. Let's see the print log. There is none because the browser process was not empty. Okay? Now, let me do one more thing in here, and then I want to close out with some awesome modularization concepts. So now, also, we have this object repository here, right? Remember all these objects we added? Now, imagine a scenario where we didn't have only 2 test cases. We had 500, right? And they're all testing that application. And for those tests, let's say even 50% of those tests, you always have to open a browser and you always have to go here. Right? Every time you always have to go to this website to just begin the testing before you even, do any actions. You have to go here. So 500 times you have to go and do this. If you recorded 500 scripts, think how much of a pain that would be for you if this URL changed. And trust me, if you have multiple environments, this URL will change. They will move it around on you. They will do so many crazy things with these URLs that is going to upset you a lot when you have to go and change it in 500 places. But if you modularize, that will not be the case. And in fact, this concept goes a little bit further in separating the data from the script. And as always, guys, I will show you that video in the future as well. Like I said, I don't leave anything behind. You'll get every single piece of knowledge from my head. But you just have to wait because these concepts, they can't all be presented at once. QTP is huge. Okay, so anyways, imagine that scenario, right? And we also have this object repository. This one has, I don't know what, maybe 10 or 20 objects. But imagine there's some scenarios that can have 100 to 500 objects. Now, if I was to do this, and let me make it's all saved. If I was to start a new test, to record a new scenario, okay? This scenario to log in and delete the phone number, okay? I need to, step 1, open the application. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's very easy. We associate a function library as we did before, main, okay? Give it a second. Get this window. Yes, it's associated. Let me grab the function from there. Okay, browser, Internet Explorer, and URL. Google.com. Now, after this, imagine we have step 2, step 3, and so on, to step 25, okay? 25 steps in this test case, okay? Now, let me save this. Save as. Come here. Go to our qtptutorial.net folder, Mercury Tours. This is going to be a new project. This is the Google project. Okay? And I'm just going, this is an example, guys. I'm going to delete it. But imagine, because right now we're working with Google right in here. Okay? Now, let me run this for you guys. I pushed F5, get this dialog. Look. Sorry. That was a runtime error. There you go. Syntax error on my part, sorry. Go ahead and run it. And look what we got. It worked, right? That function. We didn't need to do anything. Just one line of code. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now just save this. And then we're going to do a new test. And in this test, to search in Google.com. Okay? Step 1, usually always. Okay, step 1 is to open the application. And then so on and so forth until step 72. Okay? So how do we open the application? It's very easy. Associate a function library, our main. Let me check this off. Yes. And now let me grab our newly created function. Okay. And let's open iExplore exe. Okay. And let's go ahead and run it. Get this dialog. Open the Internet Explorer. And now I want to show you guys modularizing the object repository. Because let's look at our repository now. Remember, guys, with Mercury Tours we created something. Now, when I open the object repository, it's completely empty. That's because it's called the local object repository. This local object repository, it stores objects only local to this action in this test. That's it. Once you leave it, nobody else can access it. Not even other QTP machines. So all those scenarios that we created with Mercury Tours, with all those objects, they disappear. You can only use them in that test and that's it. But remember, all of those scripts, they had objects that we could reuse, like first name, last name, email address, and so on. We could reuse those objects, guys. So let me show you how we can do that. And another way around recording your application. So if I want to add an object, all I have to do is use this method right here. Okay? And boom, right away, it gives me this web edit. Let's go ahead and add that. And since this is a way to search, let me go ahead and do a Google search. Okay? Now, let's take a look at our object repository, guys. Remember, this is how QTP identifies the objects. So imagine you record and ran a script where you went in, you searched something, you hit the search button, you got some results, you clicked on some results, so on and so forth. You come back to your repository, and it looks like this. What the heck is this? Q? That's the name of the web edit. We know it's this web edit, right? If I highlight, it's this web edit, okay? You guys see that, right? But it's called Q. This is why modularization is an advantage, because now Without recording, it kind of gives you the power to change the objects as you see fit as we move through. So how about I call this search bar? Okay, does that make a little bit more sense, guys? I hope so, because it definitely makes more sense to me than Q. And it didn't change anything. It's still same object, okay? Now, I just did that in the local object repository, and we can go ahead and do this, export local objects. And what this option is going to do is it's going to allow us to create like the function library that you guys saw. Except instead of a function library, there's going to be an object repository that we can reuse for all of our applications. So if we have a Mercury Tours application, all the objects stored in there, we can go ahead and reuse them. If we have a Google application, all the objects stored in that repository, we can go ahead and use them with every script. And that's the awesome part, because if you had recorded, that would not be possible. So let me come here, qtptutorial.net. Yeah, this is Google. And usually this would go in the object repositories, but I'm doing all this on the fly, so I don't have the folders created. Actually, let me go ahead and create the folders so that I teach you guys good skills, even though I'm going to delete this right after. File, export local objects. So what this is going to do is create a shared object repository. Don't worry about the details too much right now, guys, but I will cover this in the video that I promised you guys about object recognition and object repositories, because it's one of the most essential topics, and I will not leave you without that knowledge. Do not worry. But in the meantime, let's just focus on this topic and learning why not to use record and run and the ways around the problems that it could cause you. Okay? All right, so let me go here. Google, and look, now we got all the folders here. We're going to go to common because this is the Google project, not some application within Google. Okay, scripts. Oh, but I'm trying to export. Export, and I just realized I need to show you guys. Actually, yeah, I need to show you guys how to create a shared object repository. So let me go ahead and close this. And let's go to Resources, Object Repository Manager. So we're going to quickly create a shared object repository, and then we're going to move all of our objects into there. Okay, here's our Object Repository Manager. So what we can do in here is go ahead and do this. File, Save As. And this is something you cannot do from a local object repository. You cannot just save it as a shared object repository. What you need to do is always create a shared object repository, and that will help you to avoid the loss of your objects that you are going to use over and over again. I hope this is making sense to you guys. And while my computer loads, it's good because I can have a little bit of time to talk to you guys. But I hope it's really, really making sense, because if not, just go ahead and leave questions. I can always create more videos no matter what. It's not going to stop. There's so many topics to cover. And if you guys aren't clear on anything, leave your questions and I'll do my best, whether to create a video, a blog post, or just answer your question directly. It's not a problem for me. Don't worry. So let me go in here, common. So now we're going to go into OR and let me name this. I'm going to name this Google because this is a Google repository that is common to the whole Google project. Save it. Okay, got it. Now let's go ahead and open the local object repository, which still has our objects that we don't want to lose. And we're going to export local objects. And look, we have our Google TSR here, repository. Let's move it there. Yes. Okay, cool. So close this, and Now, let me delete all the objects in here. Okay? Now this repository is empty. Okay? Now let's go ahead and attach a repository to this action. Associate repository with action, and we're going to put in Google TSR. Do you guys see Google showed up here? And do you guys see this one has a little home symbol and this one does not? It's because this one is local and this one is not. This one can be used by all the scripts. If I open it up, it has our objects here. Okay? So if I want to do this, put a search and a search bar, which now we know what it means, right? Because we got to set the object as we went through it. So let's say tutorial.net. Let's try that. And let's go ahead and run the script and see what happens. And look, guys, I already have the browser opened. Remember, when you're starting off with QTP, what you have to do is first close the browser so it doesn't get confused. But no, we don't have to do it because our open application function that was designed one time is going to do it for us. Here, I can't keep, maybe I can move it to the side and move this to the side. And you guys can see that as I run, it's going to not only close it, it's also going to do everything we need. So right now it should open Google. It should search qtptutorial.net. And then it should click the search button. And let's see what comes up. Awesome. Check it out. qtptutorial.net, creating gurus. Okay? So let me close this. How cool is that? Are you guys seeing the benefits of modularization? Not yet, because I want to show you a few more. Okay, so now this is our one script, right? Let's save it. We're in Google. Let's go to Common, Scripts, and this is going to be Test 2. Don't worry about the naming conventions, guys. Here, I'm going to delete this. This is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, now let me go ahead and open Test 1, which should be not here. Open Test 1. And remember, Test 1 used our function just to open Google. But now, what if we want to search another query in this one? So these are two different tests, right? This one will actually search Google for QTP experts. The other one searched it for something else. Don't worry about this, guys. I'm coming up with all of this on the fly with these scenarios as I make them up in my head. I just hope, I'm sure you can follow. So now we got this. But remember, what are we going to do now? We're not going to record, right? We're not going to open the browser and then record our steps because we already have the objects that we need to do this task. And they may not be here in the local repository because, look, this is empty. But all we have to do is add a shared object repository, our Google repository, okay? Open it up, and we can easily get the search bar and then get the Google search button. And let's set our string here. In fact, I'm just going to copy it from here. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and run it. I pushed F5 to run. Shortcut, guys, shortcuts. Everything is about saving time, seconds, so that you can be a more efficient automation engineer. And look, how awesome is that? Didn't have to do any work. The objects were already there. The function is already there. Everything created one time can be reused over and over and over again. I hope I drilled the subject into your guys' head, because I feel like I drilled it into my own head good enough, right? And the other awesome thing about this, guys, is that this one repository if any of the objects ever changed and I needed to go in and change these properties, I only need to do it in one place and it will affect all of my scripts. In this case, yes, it's only 2 scripts because I've only had, you know, a few minutes with you to create this. But imagine when you're weeks into a project and you have so many scripts developed, it would affect that many scripts. So that's the awesome part. So let's go ahead. I want to do a recap. I want to summarize everything for you guys because I think I've exemplified everything well enough here. Let me pull out my notes. Okay. So, problems with record and playback. Essentially, what record and playback does is create something that's not reusable, something that's linear. It creates something that's disorganized and creates a duplication of effort. So, all of this for you guys means waste of time, energy, effort, and money for your employer. Let me put this in red. Okay? You guys don't want to do this because it's not what being an automation engineer is about. So, what you really want to do is you want to modularize your code and you want to separate your data from the scripts. This is what we did when we created a shared object repository. Okay? We separated data from the scripts, and now we can apply this data to any script that we want. Is this making sense to you guys? I hope it is. And overall, when you do this with this and avoid this, the end result of all of this is more efficiency, less reuse, less duplication of effort, more time for you to script, and more time for you to maintain your old scripts. And all of that equals more money for everyone. Because at the end of it all, guys, yes, this may sound a bit harsh. True reality is that at the end of the day, you're hired by a company that's trying to make money. Whether you're doing your job for the love of it, just like I am, or whether you're actually doing it for the money. At the end of the day, everybody wants to profit. Your company wants to make as much money as it can off of its software, and you may love your job, but obviously you still love the paycheck as well. So this, guys, is what's most important, right? More money for everyone. And it's all because of this. Okay? So I hope I've made this crystal clear. We spent 3 full videos on why not to do record and playback and how to avoid it. And like I said, if you guys have any more questions, go for it. Just leave me something, some question, anything, and I'll do my best to answer it. I think I'm finally done with this topic, guys. I think I've killed it to death. And I wanted to say thank you so much for spending another hour of your day with me. I'm extremely grateful and extremely honored to be able to share my knowledge with you guys. It's a serious pleasure, and I'm so glad that I can teach you guys what I'm teaching here. And just that's why I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm here to lay out all my knowledge. I'm here to give everything that's in my brain for you guys so that we can improve the industry together, so that we as automation engineers can be taken more seriously and our talents can be more seriously appreciated. And just remember, guys, if you need anything else, I'm at qtptutorial.net. You can become a serious automation engineer just by going to the site, checking it out. If you want any more videos, just subscribe. I give them all out for free every single week, and they'll keep on coming, probably as long as I keep on learning, which is forever. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate everybody, and go quick test professional.